and welcome back to another daily cribbage. Let's see who we're playing against today. It's James. Let's see what James has got in store for us. Well, we cut a nice low card and we look down and we don't quite have a flush here, but we do have a nice double run and two cards that go well in the crib together. We hit one of the fantastic cards on the top, and I'm not brave enough to play either the 5 or the 4. So I'll let them play their another 6 and get their points that way, and then we'll deal with the complications when we get there. They don't have another 6, so I don't have to worry about that, which is one of the nice things about that line. And we'll just play the 4. We get the pair of 5s at the end, so an okay play for us, fairly average, but we get a lot of points from our hand and a little something from the crib. Oh, and this is interesting because we do have a flush, but it's a terrible flush. We could go ace king, clearly. We can go 9 king as well. Both worth 4 points immediately and both leave the 6-7-7. Yeah, I'm just going to go 9 king here. This is an interesting one. It also leaves us with a lot of diamonds, so we get to... Okay, here we go. We're going for this thing. The only reason I went for this particular play is because we had the ace, at least mitigate some of it, but that's very standard. Happens a lot when you start playing out those 7-8s at the beginning. They turn into a lot of points for your opponent, i.e. the person who plays second, but that's okay. Mostly because we had good position, and in this case we got 9-7, so this is okay as well. Take this trade, and okay. Opponents got some good hands here. Pulling all the right moves to get themselves in a good position, but we get a nice crib, so not out of the picture just yet. Okay. This one, right, we've got the 3-5-7. Always good to look out for 3-5-7 because this makes a lot of runs, and we'll go 9 king for safety. Instead of the double run, we get the 6 points, the 3-5-7-7. And we'll start something low. I'm not sure what the correct lead here actually is, but it's okay. We're going to avoid complications. Our opponent's in a spot where they really would like more points, and I'm just going to offload my 5 because I expect them to have a lot of 5s here. I don't want them to pair it. Instead, we get something worse. We get a run at the end, which happens some of the time. Opponent has a great hand and under average crib. Okay, so opponent's in a good spot to get to 70. We're a little bit behind, but what will we got in hand? Can we change anything? Well, no, this is a pretty normal looking hand. I just have to go 3-9 here and hope for something better later. The 8 comes on top. It makes us think we could have done something more, but no. This is what you have to play with. I'm going to go the ace here because I expect our opponent will pair it, and if they don't, we can get rid of our 4, and for some reason they don't want to pair our ace. Don't understand that. They wanted points. Opponent was really, really wanting some points, and I put some points in front of them and they didn't take it. So I'm not sure what my opponent's playing at there. I'll leave the jack just to vary it up, and we'll see where this takes us. Okay. All right. So opponent has a very standard hand. Looks like 8 points, but I was going to say it depends how well our opponent's crib looks. We might be happy, we might be sad, and in this case, It's hard to tell. 85 is a good position to get to the next milestone, but we have made our we have made 70. Okay. It's a bit worried about what they would have at the end there, but seems okay. Nothing too crazy from our opponent. And we have a fine crib. Okay, 91 for our opponent, 87 for us. And we look down at a classic hand. This is ace to 4 with a couple of cards. The run ace to 4 is actually very strong naturally. It makes a lot of 8-point hands. And we don't need to discard a king and low card because king queen is fairly safe in the crib. It only gets destroyed by 5s. Okay, here's one of our nice outs. We get 10 points. And I'm going to stop taking up a lot of time. So we'll go up to 11. And here we're just going to avoid 666 for 12 points. That is a big hand from our opponent. Pulling that one out. Okay, we need a small crib. Okay, the queen 10 pays off. So the computer doesn't really like that play from us. It's mostly because they actually probably want us to break up the queen king. So we'll have a look at those distributions at the end. We'll go up to 17 with the idea of keeping the double ace to pair at the end. And here we're going to go to 29 because if our opponent says go, then we do have to play out all of these cards anyway. Opponent's got a lot of points there. They don't quite make it. Oh, God. Sorry. That was a misevaluation on my part. I thought they only had 8 points. But actually, yes, the Jack makes the double run. So we are out of here. How did we fare overall? Well, we got 30 points on the play. We only got 53 points in hand. So a lot of that coming down to that last hand there. We lost out a lot of points there. And our cribs were generally pretty good. We got a few extra points there. So let's go back and have a look at that particular hand earlier. Okay, so here's the hand we want to have a look at. Our opponent's at 91 points. We're trailing a little bit at 87, but we're both behind the positional milestone at 96. James wants to get 5 more points, and we want to get another 9 more points, which could be a bit of a tall task if our opponent starts playing very defensively everywhere. But thankfully, we get a nice gift in our hand, this ace 234 run and a king queen. Now, we want to really try and get to 96. That's our main priority. And our second priority is to try and stop our opponent from overshooting and getting a really high score. Now, as it turns out, which something we can't predict, is that our opponent had a very strong hand. So we couldn't do much about that, but instead we can try and give ourselves the most number of points here. And what is that? Well, later on, the computer suggested that what we discarded wasn't the best overall, but of course it's calculating our hand minus the crib, and we can give up a couple of points on average in the crib if we so desire. In this case, I expect that the best discard according to the computer is going to be something like ace king. And the point is that ace king doesn't make as many runs. In fact, we're discarding the lowest and highest card, so there's no run that uses both ace and king. What we discarded, king queen on the other hand, yes, that makes a lot of runs when our opponent throws away jacks. So if our opponent throws away jack 5, which is one of the most common things to discard, other than say 2-3 or 7-8, they're going to get a lot of points for that. We're really rewarding those kinds of discards. On the other hand, when king queen doesn't make many points in the crib, it doesn't combo with what our opponent throws in there, our opponent's going to get 0 points in the crib a lot of the time, because a lot of the hands that score 0 in the crib are hands that consist of pairs of consecutive cards that don't interact. Think king queen 10-9, which is what happened in the game, so missing out a jack, king queen, I don't know, 9-8, or king queen ace 2, or king queen 3-4. All of these are 0 scoring hands, and of course they could improve to some points with the cut card, but there are still ways for them to score 0 with certain cuts. For instance, king queen 3-4, if you cut a 10, that's 0 points. So in this case, we're thinking about those kinds of, or we're dreaming of those kinds of things when we discard king queen. Of course, if we want to play the safest, we can discard ace king. We're giving up some points in hand by doing that, though. Now, it might look like if we keep a 2-3-4 king or 2-3-4 queen, either of those, that our hand is immediately worth 5 points, and if we discard king queen, we're keeping only 4 points. But this is where we have to think about how our hand improves. And ace 2-3-4, I think I'm right in saying it always improves. It improves on a 5, improves on a 6, improves on a 7 with ace 3-4-7, improves on an 8, 3-4-8, improves on a 9 with many different 15s, and improves on 10s with the 2 15s, the 2-3-10 and ace 4-10. And in a lot of those cases, we're improving by more than 2 points, right? Any 10 that comes on top takes our hand from 4 points to 8 points. So ace 2-3-4 is one of those big exceptions to keep in mind when you're thinking about how hands improve. Ace 2-3-4 always improves, and the 5, it may look like you're only extending the run by 1, but 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15, so it actually improves to 7 points. Lovely. And I haven't even counted all of the ace 2-3-4 that can come up on the top of the deck. Those are giving us the long double run for 10 points. So ace to 4 is, it can be a good one to keep in your back pocket. Let's check out how the discard averages look online. Let's compare that to how we're thinking. Okay, so let's put some numbers to our claims. At the top, we have the best discard, ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, as we said, and this is scoring us hand minus crib of 3.9. So this breaks down as an average of about 8 in the hand and 4 in the crib, or just over 4, just under 7 in hand. Ace of diamonds, queen of clubs is the same in hand because every card is interacting in the same way, so that's no surprise. In the crib, though, we expect a little bit more points. Why is that? It's because the queen is a part of more runs. So if our opponent throws away king jack or jack 10, those are also making some runs. But that's only a tiny contribution, 0.08, but it's still worth keeping in mind. Every factor is important at some level. Next up, we have 4 king of diamonds, and this is over actually 4 queen of clubs. It's interesting that these score so much differently, but it's also interesting that queen of clubs, king of diamonds, this discard is sort of breaking those up. But at this point, when we're looking at the differences between the hand minus crib scores, between ace king and 4 queen, we only have 0.3 in it. So these are all fairly close. So what's 4 king? 4 king is a little bit better than 4 queen, and the reason why we score less with 4 queen, so in hand we score less with 4 queen than with, say, ace king, with 4 king than ace king in hand, and that's because, well, we're going to make fewer longer runs. So when we hit the 5 on top, we get an extra card in our run, but we only get the 5 increasing our run if we kept the 4. If we have ace 2 3 and we get a 5, then our run is only of length 3. Okay, and let's compare all of these to queen king. So what's going on here? If we discard queen king, our hand is worth a bit more. So is worth about, actually it's very close, isn't it? It's worth just slightly more than 8, and on average it's about 8.09, and the average for ace king is 7.96. Okay, so not a huge difference there. The main difference and the reason why queen king discard is not at the top of the table is because it scores quite a few more points in the crib. 4.45 in the crib as opposed to 4.07. However, this is the thing that I wanted to mention is, let's have a look at that standard deviation. That standard deviation for queen king is 3.67, and the standard deviation for ace king is 2.75. So as long as we're a little bit lucky, we can actually get away with throwing away queen king. And at this point in the game, we probably didn't need to take this risk, but I just like the guaranteed points that ace to 4 gives you, and so that's why I took that one. So if you have a look at the hand score, we have a median of 8, which is mostly coming down to the fact that all of the 10s improve our hand to 8 points, whereas ace king has a median of 7, so 50% of the time when we're not even making 7 points in hand. So let's see how the distributions look a little bit. So as you can see, if I have a look at ace king in hand, we have this distribution is centered around 7. That is, whenever we hit a 10 count card, we get 7 points, unless we hit a king, in which case we're going to get 9 points. If we contrast that with queen king, the spike now comes at 8 points. This is when we hit those 10 count cards again. And we have a secondary spike at 10 points, and that's going to be when we hit those, as we did in the game, those ace 2 3 4s. Lovely. And the cribs are all pretty similar. The only thing is that if we have a look at queen king in the crib, the bars that are a bit different and the things that are a bit scarier would be these higher scoring cribs. Right? By playing ace king into the crib, we sort of cut out a lot of those higher scoring double runs that could appear in the crib that could be quite scary, whereas when we discard queen king, we're sort of enabling some of those to appear, and in the worst case we could even end up seeing a 16-point crib 2% of the time, which is actually quite significant. 16 points 2% of the time. I don't know if we needed to take that risk after all. Okay, so anyway, I hope that was useful analysis, and I hope that in your own games you incorporate ace to 4 as much as I do. Maybe I include it too much, but until next time, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.